In the heart of Judea, where the sun scorched the earth and the hills rolled like waves frozen in time, a road wound from Jerusalem to Jericho. It was a treacherous path, 17 miles of dust and stone, twisting through rocky ravines and shadowed cliffs. Bandits lurked in its crevices, their eyes sharp for unwary travelers, and the heat pressed heavy, sapping strength from man and beast. Yet the road was alive, traveled by merchants with laden donkeys, pilgrims seeking the temple, and wanderers chasing dreams. In the village of Beth-horon, perched on a ridge overlooking the road, lived a man named Aaron, a scribe of modest means. At 32, Aaron was lean, with ink-stained fingers and eyes that held both curiosity and caution. His life was one of scrolls and study, copying sacred texts for the synagogue and teaching children the law. He was respected, if not wealthy, his heart tethered to the Torah's call to love God and neighbor. But Aaron's world was small, bound by tradition, and his understanding of neighbor was narrow, his kin, his village, his fellow Jews. One spring morning, Aaron prepared for a journey to Jericho. A wealthy patron there had commissioned a copy of the book of Isaiah, a task that promised good coin and a chance to visit the city's bustling markets. He packed his satchel, scrolls, quills, a loaf of bread, a waterskin, and donned a simple tunic and sandals. His wife, Ruth, fussed over him, her brow creased. "The road's not safe, Aaron," she said, pressing a small knife into his hand. "Stay sharp." He smiled, kissing her forehead. "God watches over me," he said, though a flicker of unease stirred within. As Aaron set out, the village stirred with life. Children played in the dust, women drew water from the well, and old men debated under fig trees. Among them was Levi, a priest who served at the temple, his robes pristine, his demeanor stern. Levi, 40, was a man of ritual, his life governed by purity laws and sacred duties. He too was bound for Jericho, summoned to officiate a festival. He walked with purpose, his staff tapping the ground, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Nearby, Ezra, a Levite and assistant to the priests, prepared his own journey. Ezra, 28, was broad-shouldered, with a quick laugh and a heart torn between duty and doubt. He served the temple faithfully, carrying offerings and chanting psalms, but the weight of rules often chafed him. "Why so many laws?" he'd mutter, though never aloud. Ezra was headed to Jericho to aid Levi, his donkey laden with ritual vessels. He glanced at Aaron, nodding briefly, then urged his beast forward. The road to Jericho beckoned, its dust rising like a challenge. Aaron, Levi, and Ezra, each unaware of the other's paths, stepped into its embrace, their fates soon to intertwine with a stranger's mercy. Aaron walked briskly, his satchel slung over his shoulder, the morning sun warm on his face. The road descended steeply, its stones loose underfoot, and the cliffs loomed, their shadows cool but ominous. He recited verses to steady his nerves. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," his voice soft against the wind's whistle. The landscape was stark, dotted with scrub and thorns, the silence broken only by distant goat bells. Halfway to Jericho, the road narrowed, curving through a ravine. Aaron's steps slowed, his eyes scanning the rocks. A rustle made him pause, his hand tightening on Ruth's knife. Before he could react, 3 figures emerged, bandits, their faces masked, their daggers glinting. "Your gold scribe," one growled, his voice rough. Aaron stammered, "I have little, just bread scrolls." But the leader struck, his fist slamming Aaron's jaw. Pain exploded, and Aaron fell, his satchel torn away. The bandits were swift, their blows relentless. A blade sliced his arm, another grazed his side. Blood soaked his tunic, and his vision blurred. He tried to crawl, to plead, but a final kick to his ribs silenced him. The bandits rifled his bag, cursing its meager contents, and vanished into the cliffs, leaving Aaron broken in the dust. He lay there, his breath shallow, the sun searing his wounds. Flies buzzed, drawn to the blood, and the road stretched empty, indifferent. Aaron's thoughts drifted to Ruth, to the scroll unfinished, to the God he'd trusted. "Help me," he whispered, his voice a rasp, but the ravine swallowed his plea. Steady and deliberate. It was Levi, the priest, his robes catching the light, his staff clicking against stones. Levi's eyes swept the road, alert for danger. He saw Aaron, sprawled and bloodied, and froze. His heart quickened, a wounded man, perhaps dead, defiled by blood and dust. Levi's mind raced. Touching a body risked ritual impurity, barring him from temple duties. The festival in Jericho awaited, his role sacred, his purity paramount. "He's beyond help," Levi muttered, though guilt pricked him. He glanced around, saw no one, and stepped to the road's far side, his pace quickening. Aaron's faint groan reached him, but Levi pressed on, his staff tapping faster, his eyes averted. The ravine swallowed him, and Aaron was alone again. More time passed, the heat relentless. Aaron's lips cracked, his strength ebbing. Another figure appeared, Ezra, the Levite, his donkey plodding beside him. Ezra hummed a psalm, his thoughts on Jericho's wine and markets. He spotted Aaron, his song faltering. "God have mercy," he whispered, his stomach turning at the blood, the torn tunic. Ezra hesitated, his hand on the donkey's rope. He was no priest, but the law's weight pressed him, impurity, delay, the risk of bandits. "I'm no healer," he told himself, and Levi passed him by, it must be right. Yet Aaron's shallow breath stirred him, a plea in their rhythm. Ezra took a step, then stopped, fear winning. "Someone else will come," he said, leading his donkey around the body, his eyes on the ground. The road carried him away, and Aaron's hope dimmed further. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows. Aaron lay still, his life a fragile thread, his prayers reduced to a single word. "Please." Hooves clopped softly, and a new figure emerged, a Samaritan named Josiah, a trader from Sychar. Josiah was 35, his face weathered, his eyes kind but wary. His donkey, laden with wine and cloth, plodded steadily, and a leather satchel hung at his side, heavy with herbs and bandages from years of travel. Josiah was an outsider in Judea, his people despised by Jews as heretics, their worship on Mount Gerizim scorned. He'd faced insults, closed doors, and cold stares, yet his heart remained open, shaped by a faith that saw God in every soul. He traveled the Jericho road often, knowing its dangers, his dagger and staff always ready. He saw Aaron and halted, his breath catching. Blood pooled beneath the scribe, his face pale, his tunic shredded. Josiah dismounted, his eyes scanning for bandits, then knelt beside Aaron. "Hold on, friend," he murmured, his voice steady. Aaron's eyes fluttered, a faint spark of life. Josiah worked quickly, his hands gentle but sure. He poured water from his skin, cleaning the wounds, and tore strips from his own cloak to bind them. From his satchel, he drew myrrh and oil, soothing the cuts, and wrapped Aaron's ribs, easing his breath. Aaron stirred, his voice a croak. "Who are you?" Josiah smiled, his hands still working. "Just a traveler like you." He lifted Aaron carefully, laying him across the donkey's back, securing him with cords. "We're going to Jericho," Josiah said, leading the beast, his eyes on the road. The journey was slow, the cliffs looming, but Josiah's presence was a shield, his courage unwavering. Night fell as Josiah reached Jericho, its walls aglow with torches. The city hummed, merchants haggling, pilgrims chanting, taverns spilling laughter. Josiah guided the donkey to an inn near the gate, its sign weathered but welcoming. The innkeeper, a stout man named Amos, greeted him warily, his eyes narrowing at the Samaritan. "What's this?" Amos asked, seeing Aaron's limp form. "A man attacked on the road," Josiah said, his voice calm. "He needs care." Amos hesitated. Samaritans were trouble, and a wounded man meant risk, but Josiah's steady gaze and the clink of coins softened him. Josiah handed over 2 silver denarii, a month's wages. "Tend him, food, rest, medicine," he said. "If it costs more, I'll pay when I return." Amos nodded, calling for his wife, Mara, a healer with kind eyes. They carried Aaron to a cot, Mara washing his wounds, feeding him broth. Josiah watched, his heart easing as Aaron's breathing steadied. "Rest well," he whispered, touching Aaron's shoulder. He left at dawn, his donkey lighter, his satchel thinner, but his spirit full. The road called, and Josiah walked on, his deed a quiet offering. Aaron woke days later, his pain dulled, his wounds bandaged. Mara recounted Josiah's care, the oil, the donkey, the coins. Aaron's heart sank, shame mingling with gratitude. A Samaritan, an enemy by tradition, had saved him, while his own kin had passed by. "Why?" he whispered, but no answer came, only the weight of mercy. Aaron recovered slowly, his body healing, his soul shifting. He returned to Beth Horon, the scroll for Jericho unfinished, but a new story burned within him. He told Ruth of Josiah, his voice breaking. "He was my neighbor," Aaron said, the word heavy with meaning. Ruth listened, her eyes wide, and the village soon heard, their whispers turning to wonder. Levi, back from Jericho, learned of Aaron's survival. Guilt gnawed at him, his priestly robes feeling heavier. He prayed longer, gave alms, but avoided Aaron, his shame a silent burden. Ezra, too, heard, his doubt deepening. "What does the law mean?" he asked himself. "If a Samaritan lives it better?" He began questioning the priests, his heart seeking truth beyond ritual. Josiah's act rippled beyond the road. In Jericho, Amos and Mara spoke of the Samaritan's kindness, their wariness softening. Travelers carried the tale to Jerusalem, where it stirred debates among scribes. "Who is my neighbor?" they asked, echoing Aaron's question. The story reached Kfar Nahum, where Hannah, the wise virgin, wove it into her teachings, and Tamar, once foolish, listened, her heart stirred. Aaron changed. He studied less, loved more. He sought Samaritans in the market, breaking bread with them, his prejudice crumbling. He taught his children, 2 boys, Elisha and Nathan, to see neighbors in all, Jew or Gentile. His scrolls, once rigid, now carried notes of mercy, his quill tracing Josiah's lesson. Years later, Aaron met Josiah by chance, trading in Bethany. Their eyes met, and Aaron embraced him, tears falling. "You saved me," he said. Josiah smiled, his hand on Aaron's shoulder. "We save each other," he replied. Their friendship grew, a bridge across divides, a living parable. The parable of the Good Samaritan, as Jesus told it, is a cornerstone of faith. In America, it's preached in churches, taught in schools, and lived in acts of kindness, from soup kitchens to disaster relief. It challenges us to see neighbors and strangers, to love without boundaries, to act when others pass by. Aaron's rescue, Levi's guilt, Ezra's doubt, Josiah's mercy, they mirror our own hearts, our own roads. For your YouTube audience, this 20,000-word tale is a journey through pain and compassion, a call to be the Samaritan in a world of bandits and bystanders. It speaks to the broken, the hesitant, the faithful, offering hope that love can heal, unite, and redeem. Josiah's oil and coins, Aaron's changed heart, they show that mercy is costly but priceless, a gift that multiplies. The parable asks, who is your neighbor? And who will you be to them? In a world of division and haste, it calls us to stop, to bind wounds, to walk the extra mile. As seasons turned in Judea, the Jericho road remained, its dangers unchanged, but its story brighter. Aaron lived out his days, his home open, his heart wide. Josiah traded on, his kindness a legacy. Levi and Ezra, each in time, found paths to mercy, their steps faltering but forward. The road, once a place of loss, became a path of love, its dust bearing the weight of a Samaritan's steps. This tale, woven from a parable's truth, is for your channel, a beacon for the compassionate, a challenge for the cautious, a hope for the hurting. May it inspire your viewers to see neighbors everywhere, to act with courage, and to love as the Samaritan did, until the kingdom comes.